Welcome to the DJVonFire podcast. I'm your host, David. Joshua Vales producing today, Jonathan Andrew Vales. This is episode 2 of season 2. Last week we had 2 guests, and today we have 2 guests again. I see a theme. Miriam Joy Chaya and Kennadie Nicole Penwit. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
So just a reminder, make sure you speak up, but definitely just speak your heart, whatever you want to talk about as we go through. Let's talk a little bit of background, because you're friends with all my kids, I think. I mean, Ethan's 11, but the other 3 you are you friends with them? Is everybody friends with them?
I think so.
Kennadie's shaking up. And you've danced with Kaylee.
Yeah.
Right, so it goes back a little ways. I taught at boot camp 2 years ago. Were either of you there for that one?
Yes, the squirrel talk.
Thank you, the squirrel talk. And then I spoke at Reboot. Whitewater rafting.
Yep. Yes.
You heard that one? And then I preached in January. Did you hear that one?
I was there. I feel like I would have been there, but I don't think I remember it.
So I talked about, I mainly talked about, what did I talk about? Well, I talked about growing mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. That's what I kind of talked about. And I talked about the year I had last year. So it kind of led to the podcast. So I spoke like the second week, so we would have just started the podcast. So that's kind of what it started with. So anything you remember from the squirrel story or the whitewater rafting that like either the point of it or just like a funny part of it for either one of you?
I just remember you talking about like taking the squirrel somewhere and then them coming back a lot. That's honestly, if I could look back at my notes when I get home, but that's what I remember from the squirrel talk. And then the whitewater rafting, it was the water, and then you fell in a lot.
I liked the kids waving at you.
And then the Greek god. Yes, your guide.
That's the part you're going to remember.
Yeah, but if I look back at my notes, I would remember more.
Okay. No, that was essentially the fact that you remember those parts. So the squirrels, for anybody that was not there or have not heard the squirrel story, they broke into my house. I bought a trap at like the hardware store. I didn't even know you could do that, but I Googled it and they're like, Ace Hardware, you can buy a trap. So I bought the squirrel trap. I'd catch them, and it said to drive them 5 miles away. And I thought, well, how do they know? Like, how far they are away? So I drove them like 3 miles away. But like squirrels just kept coming and coming. And I'm like, this is either the biggest family or they legit are coming all the way back. But it was consistency of like being consistent and never giving up and never quitting. That was the moral of the story. And then we did whitewater rafting. Have either of you been in whitewater rafting?
No.
Yeah. Do you?
I don't know that I want to now that I heard yours.
Yeah, now that I heard yours, I'm like, that's
someone else
something I
talked
want.
about whitewater rafting on one of your podcasts, and I was like, that's interesting. I think it was Kate.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it. So the experience is, if you haven't been whitewater rafting, is that there's different levels. And so I went on the highest level with the least amount of people in the boat, which makes it the most vulnerable. And sure enough, we flipped and rolled. And I'm not a good swimmer. My cousin was a surfer, and so he had no problem. He loved it. He loved crashing into the rocks. He's like, oh, it's a normal day, and there's no sharks in the river. Because when he surfs, he's out in the, what ocean is over there?
Atlantic.
It's good. I was just testing. Did you both know that was the Atlantic?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the point. But then the river is life, and how it kind of like everybody's in it. Like you don't really have a choice. And so when you make the choice to do things, that's kind of when you can control, or what you can control about the river. So we'll get rolling here, and we're going to talk about the mental, the physical, the emotional, and spiritual with both of you as we go. But let's do a little icebreaker here. And we played a game with Kate a few weeks ago on a podcast. And so I'm going to say something, and you just word associate. Whatever comes to your mind first, say it.
Okay.
It might not even really relate to us mere mortals watching, but maybe like someone you know, like it'll make sense to them. And then I'll do one where I say 2 things, and you pick your favorite, and you can't explain why it's your favorite. And then I'll say what's your favorite movie, but I'm not going to ask that one today. So I'll ask what's your favorite whatever, and then you got to come up with one as fast as you can. And remember, we have less than an hour, so
Right.
we'll
Okay.
kind of be on a time frame. So whichever one can think of something first, just say it. Are they allowed to steal the other person's answer? Or do they have to come up with their own unique answer? Like on the pick one, it could be the same, but like at the beginning, word association, whoever says the first one, the other person has to think of something different.
Yeah, because I think
Okay.
that happened with me and Kate. She like said Jesus for something, and I wasn't allowed to use
Right. Okay, so word association. Second place church,
Home.
Joe, and what'd you say?
Home.
Home. Chicago weather.
Crappy.
I thought of the Cubs. I don't know why.
Okay. So for those playing along at home, she said crappy, and then she said Chicago Cubs. The question
said
was Chicago
Chicago.
weather. Downtown Chicago.
Fun.
The Bean.
Chicago Cubs.
Okay. The Bean. Yeah. So wait, let's pause there. The Bean.
Mhm.
You've been lately? Or I mean,
Not
you
lately.
can remember it?
Yeah.
Did you obviously take the reflection picture mirror?
Oh my gosh.
Like mirror?
Sadly, yes.
Okay. Where did you go together?
No.
Oh, we
No.
went boot camp one
Oh,
year.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I
So
remember a
technically, yes.
very cringy picture from that. It's a little mirror
Yeah.
selfie. Really
I'd
good.
like to recall that
All
one.
right, picking it up again. Taylor Swift.
I don't like her. That was more than one word. My bad.
It's fine.
Reputation, one of her albums.
That you're not allowed to explain.
I know.
Breakfast.
Bagels.
Eggs.
All right, pick one. Fish or hamsters?
Fish.
Fish.
That's allowed. Genesis or Revelation?
Revelation.
Genesis.
Dunkin' or Starbucks?
Starbucks.
Duncan.
All right, speak a little louder so people can hear you. David or Jonathan? Don't answer that. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. Micah or Jeremiah? Just kidding. Don't answer it. Don't answer it. All right, Friday nights at home. Friday nights. Home in your sweats in bed or out with friends?
Out with friends.
Home.
Okay. What's your favorite song of all time? Well, what's your favorite song? I'll say that.
Neon Moon, the remix with Casey Musgraves.
I cannot
Gotta
think
write
of a
that down.
single song right now.
You got time? I'm writing down Neon Moon remix. What?
Casey Musgraves.
All right, nice and loud.
Everyone go listen to it.
Casey, I can't even spell that. Okay, your turn. Favorite song? What do you listen to currently?
I listen to a lot of Shawn Mendes.
That's a
lot
person.
of- I know.
It's not a song, Kennedy.
Name a song by Shawn
let's
Mendes.
see. Particular taste.
Okay. Favorite TV show?
Dawson's Creek. It's
I
not my favorite TV show.
I thought of Friends. It's a classic.
Favorite go-to snack?
Cheesy goldfish.
Salt and vinegar chips.
I hate both of those.
Wow.
Favorite restaurant?
Oh. I don't. Olive Garden was what first came to my mind, but that's definitely not it. So I don't know why I keep getting.
I have no idea. I keep thinking of fast food places. Can those count?
If it's your birthday dinner, where your mom just makes something?
I don't know.
Do you go out for your birthday?
Yes, usually. Oh, I've gone to the Cheesecake Factory. That's pretty good.
I've been at the Cheesecake Factory like once.
Did
I
you like
can't-
it?
I don't remember. I was like 2.
Okay.
Okay, so no. Okay, this
You're good. It's okay.
favorite day of the week.
Sundays probably.
Saturdays.
Okay, that's the game.
Sounds good.
Some of it was good. Some of it, I don't know. I feel like you should have more favorites. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like something that I don't know. Maybe play this back, watch yourself, and then be like,
For sure.
now I know. And you
Yeah.
put it in the comments below. So the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. That's what we're going to talk about today. So when I think mental, I think of like education, schooling. So one of you take over and like, let's start with you because
Okay.
you just said you just graduated
Yeah.
high school.
So I've been homeschooled since I was in 7th grade. My mom kind of just made that decision for all of our siblings. She felt like she wasn't really spending a lot of time with us and we were always gone. So that was kind of just a decision she made. I was kind of fine with it. I wasn't like popular or anything in school. Like I didn't really care. And then, so I've been homeschooled since I was in 7th grade and I just graduated. My plan is to take a gap year, and I am planning on moving out to Florida either the end of June or the beginning of July, just working for a year, exploring the area and getting to know people, establishing myself, and the area and a new church. And then they have like a college ministry down there that I'm going to get to be a part of. But after I take my gap year, I'm going to be going to Florida Gulf Coast University in Fort Myers.
Pluses and minuses of being homeschooled. You kind of threw a little bit in there, but was it a shock when you were in 7th grade? You're like, what are we doing?
Honestly, yeah, I was just like kind of confused. I was like, why all of a sudden, like, do you want to homeschool?
Yeah.
We had just started coming to second place at that point, so my mom knew a lot of people that were homeschooling their children,
Yeah.
obviously. And then like one day she was just like, okay, after this year you guys are being homeschooled, and I was like, okay, like I don't really like have a reaction to that.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, whatever, I'll just go with it. But honestly, probably the best choice that was made for my siblings and I, just because I feel like for myself, I wouldn't have been on the path that I'm on, like as far as my relationship with God and all my friendships that I have now established through second place and being homeschooled, that I would not have had if I were to stay in school. But that's just a personal thing. I know other people obviously do better in public school or private, but as for my family and myself, it was better for us to be home.
So what's the sibling pecking order? Like, where do you fall in your
So I
brothers,
have
sisters?
an older brother. He just turned 25 yesterday, and then I have two younger. I'm 18, and then I have two younger sisters. One is 13, and the other is 8.
Got it. All right. You're homeschooled as well.
Yes, I've always been homeschooled. At first, my siblings went to a private Christian academy, but then my family was moving far away, and during that time, gas prices were going up, and my parents were like, how are we going to afford to get them back and forth? And then my mom said she felt God telling her to homeschool, and she's never thought of it before, but then, so I've been homeschooled my entire life, so I don't really know anything different, but I personally love it. I love the freedom that it gives me. It's taught me, of course, like time management, and all of my friends are homeschooled, so we get to do classes together. And I'm the youngest, so then my brother is 22, and then my sister is 20. No, he's 23. Yeah, he is.
We weren't too far off.
Yeah, not bad.
You start to lose track a little bit. And then you still have a year left.
Yes, I'm finishing my junior year now. I only have 2 more weeks, and then I will be a senior next year. Very crazy to me. But I don't really know where I want to go to school yet. I see myself doing missions work when I'm older, probably moving out of the country. If you know me or like talk to me at all, that's all I talk about really. I keep talking about wanting to move to France or something. But I'm trying to figure out what college and what college majors would really equip me for that and help me prepare to do that, because you don't technically need a college degree to do that, but I want to feel as prepared as possible. So I am looking forward to figuring that out soon.
This place is all about community, so are you comfortable going alone? I mean, that's you've already thought this through? You're like,
yeah, I mean,
or you're going to recruit somebody?
I'd love to bring someone along with me. Me and Annalise, we talk about it all the time, living together in France. It seems impossible, but I don't think it is, honestly. So I'd love to bring her along with me. I don't know if she would.
Yeah.
I hope so. I would go alone if that's what God wants me to do, but I would hope that I could bring someone along with me, or if I meet someone in the future or there, I would have establish a community there wherever I go.
You feel like this has been on your heart for a while?
Yeah, when I was younger, so I used to go to Stone Church, a lot of connections with Second Place, and we would go to breakaway camp for a week in the summer every year. And one worship night, I was sitting there, and I felt God tell me that I was going to be a pastor. And so I was like, what? Like, I was 7 years old. Like, that's very young. Like, you were just, like, you don't really know, like, who God is. Like, I grew up in a Christian home, so I was, like, told all these things, and I'm just like, oh, that's cool, Jesus, nice. But, like, at 7 years old, like, I felt God telling me that, and then I had this random woman come up to me, and she was, like, hugging me, because I was, like, sobbing, and she was like, you're going to do great things, and I was like, what does that mean? Like, what? So then when I came home, I got baptized, and it was, like, it was a big deal, so I really feel like that's on my heart, and if that's what God wants me to do, I'm going to do it.
Oh, that's good. So this is interesting, because when I think my quote that I was kind of like released today is, when you're through learning, you're through. Meaning, like, as soon as you stop wanting to be educated or learn things, then there's what else is there in life? So,
Mhm.
and both of you kind of live the education part a little bit. I feel like when you're homeschooled, there's a little bit more freedom to explore.
Mhm.
Did you feel that at home? Like and like, cause you kind of were like right in the middle then, like,
Yeah.
so you were used to like the 8 to 3, bell to
Mhm.
bell maybe, or whatever.
Yeah.
You're at the whim of whatever the teacher said at that
Mhm.
moment. Was there a little bit more freedom after that? I really don't know, but
Yeah,
like, or did you feel like it was still kind of just like locked up?
I feel like at the start of it was kind of weird because we were trying to figure out a schedule and everything
right.
since my mom had never done this before.
Mhm.
I never got involved in like a co-op or anything like that, so I was literally just at home
Mhm.
for however long until I started making friends and stuff. And then I wouldn't say that we stuck to a schedule. We tried like our best to, but I think like that first year and especially like the first few years that I was homeschooled, we really tried to try new things and like go out and like do fun things
Mhm.
on like Fridays. So like my mom started this thing. We didn't like stick to it, but she would have us do school Monday through Thursday, and then on Fridays we would go like to the zoo or we'd go like to I don't know wherever she
Yeah,
wanted
yeah,
to
yeah.
just to like
Mhm.
have some out time.
Field trip every
Yeah,
week.
yeah. So that was really nice because that's not something that like you're used to. You're
Right.
like a field trip in school. I don't even remember how long. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
You don't take those very often. So when we started doing those, I thought that was like really interesting because we would go to like the Museum of Science and Industry, and that's where we would do like our science for the day or
Mhm.
like stuff like that. Just a very different way of integrating the learning, and I really liked that.
Yeah.
So there was that, and then I also just got involved in like a lot more hobbies. Like once I was starting to be homeschooled, just so I could get out there and like actually make friends since I was not in school anymore. But,
Yeah. And then do you get that aspect of it, like freedom to like search whatever you want instead of like
Yeah. Like Kennedy said before, I really feel like being homeschooled has allowed me different opportunities and just being able to have a unique relationship with God. Like I like structuring my mornings by myself. Like I wake up, make my coffee, and like do my devotions or something. And I feel like I maybe wouldn't have that if I was like rushing out to school
Mhm.
because I just wake up and I'd go. But like just for me personally, I really enjoy being homeschooled.
Yeah.
And it does offer me a lot of freedom and creativity. Like before, I used to be in a co-op, and so I would meet with families once a week, and it was really fun because I met a lot of great people from there. And then the past couple of years since I started high school, I've been taking some online classes. So, and then I also Aunt Susan Epperson, she teaches me French, me and Annalise the past 3 years. So I really get a lot of everything. I have in-person classes, then online, and then my own learning, and then with my mom as well. So I really like the variety.
All right, singing, playing instruments,
Um,
either one of you?
yeah, so I actually played the violin when I was in like second grade. My mom put me in that. And then she had me like go into an orchestra, and I kind of really hated it. So
All right.
like that would be on Sunday afternoons, and a lot of times like that's when we were still living in Moni.
Yeah.
We would have people over after church like every single week. So like I always felt because the orchestra was after church on Sundays, and I was like I don't want to go. So I would literally like go to the bathroom and like hide in there for like 30 minutes, and I'd be like, well, I'm late now, so I'm not going.
Yeah.
And that never worked out because my mom's always late anywhere anyway. So I was just like, she doesn't care. So she'd still just drive me, and I just like kind of hated it. So I stopped playing in like the orchestra and also just like violin, I think in like 7th or 8th grade. And then I started again when I was practicing with Aaron. He moved out to Michigan, but he used to come here. And I started lessons again because I was going to join the worship team for violin. And then he had to move away and like stuff happened with that. So I never really like pursued that further. I still have my violin, but I don't really like pick it up all that often. It's something that I'd like to do.
Yeah.
But that's the only instrument I've played. And then as far as like singing goes, I also joined the worship team like before COVID and stuff happened, and then everything with that kind of fell apart. But tried new things, but like as far as singing goes, I felt like that was more of like just a distraction for me because I couldn't focus on me actually worshiping, which is why I kind of stopped. As far as like worshiping on stage, I just felt like there was a lot of pressure to like have a good like sounding voice and like make sure that I was like hitting the right notes and everything. So at that point I just kind of stopped because I was like, I don't feel like I'm growing in this like spiritually. And like that was my intention. Like I wanted to do it because I wanted to be bold and like do something. But turns out that's not the path that I wanted to go, and that wasn't really helping me to pursue God further, which is what I thought it would have done.
Well, what's important is that, like, and we talked about choosing to jump in the river, like, that was your jump at that point.
Yeah.
Let me see if this is what I need to do. Because you could have just sat there and never known
Yeah.
the experience.
Mhm.
And then what? Then you'd have nothing to, and it's always like, you could have. So
Yeah.
being able to put yourself out there and be like, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that.
Mhm.
And then eventually you're going to find something that's like, wow, this is
Yeah.
amazing. So just the experience of trying the experiences is kind of key for anybody listening.
Mhm.
All right.
I played piano for 2 years, I think between like 7 and 9. I don't remember why I stopped, but it's something that I'd love to start up again. During COVID, like I had a lot of free time, so I was like, man, I really wish I knew how to play piano. So I've been thinking about it since then. I hope to start lessons soon, or maybe with like Micah or Jeremiah or someone, because we have so many musically gifted people here.
Yeah.
I used to be in musical theater as a kid, so I was singing a lot, and I used to like go to camps and stuff, and I enjoyed it so much. And then I stopped when I was younger to focus more on dance. And then ever since I came to second place, people have been like, you should join the worship team. And I'm like, nah, like I'm good. But a couple months ago, I just walked up to Faith and Micah. I felt God, like he was telling me, like, you should join the worship team now. And I was like, really? Like I was literally just like sitting at youth group. I was like reading a book, and then like I was listening to them like rehearse for that night. And then he was like, you should join the worship team. And I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
So then after I like walked up to them, they're like, are you serious? Because like everyone's been like, you should do it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm serious. Like I want to join. And they're like, okay, sure. So now I guess I'm part of the youth band. I haven't been on yet, but it was a step of boldness. I feel like that's been a big word for me in Kennadie lately. And then like you brought it up with your talk at Reboot. So boldness has been a really big thing.
That's pretty cool. Let's keep rolling. Physical now. And we don't have to spend that amount of time on each one of these, but like physical, I mean volleyball through high school a little bit, right? And then dance. So I've known that part of your stories, right? Like, you know all my kids, you know of me, I know of you, but like we haven't talked much, but like that part I know.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk first about dance? Because that's been something you did since for the longest time.
Yeah, I started when I was 3. My older sister Naomi danced as well, and like I just wanted to go into those classrooms so bad. So I've done everything you can imagine, basically, like ballet, tap, jazz, lyrical, modern, hip hop, like everything really. And I love it so much. I've always had a passion for it. It's something that I don't see myself ever stopping. And I assist classes with a teacher on Thursdays, and hopefully next year I'll be able to teach some of my own classes at my studio. I'm not really sure if I would like pursue it as a career at all, or just like a side thing like teaching, but I enjoy dancing so much, and I'm so glad that I have that outlet, because during COVID my classes still taught online during Zoom, and so that kept the sense of like normalcy basically, and like I didn't completely lose myself at all because I still had that clutch of dance. So I'm very, very grateful for it.
Do you have a favorite? You just read off like
favorite probably tap, because for 2 years I was in like a tap company basically. So I was tapping like probably like 7 or 8 hours a week, and I love it so much. I love my teacher. He's now the director of my studio. I love tap. It's great. But I love all of them, but definitely tap and jazz are my favorites.
It's more than just, it's more than exercise, right? Like
yes,
it's
100%.
Like, it's when we talk about mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, it probably hits on all, I mean, you could say it hits on all 4 levels.
Yeah, of course. It's a very emotional and mental side of it that I don't think a lot of people think of. Like, they're just like, oh, you're just flailing around, and it's a very controversial thing. Like, it's dance, a sport, but we're not going to get into that. Like, it's just a
right. But it's still,
topic,
it's still physical.
Yeah, but especially the lyrical portion, it's like dancing to the music. So what you are portraying to the audience or just in class needs to match the music. So if it's loud, if it's angry, you need to present that in your motions. You need to make them sharper. You need to make them like bigger. Or if it's like sad, or you're trying to portray like a melancholy emotion, then that's what you have to do. So I give my all into it. Like when I do something and when I love something, I give everything that I have. So it really does take a lot of me, like mentally and emotionally. Like if I'm not having a good day and I go into class, I'm like, I don't really want to be here. But then my teacher's energy and everyone around me like really like lifts me up, and I'm like, wow, it's just insane. So it definitely is more than just exercise or just standing around.
Does it hit on the spiritual part? Do you feel like it's a meditation? Are there times when you get lost and you're thinking about that, or is it kind of? I mean, you don't have to agree just because I'm saying it. But like, and we have people in service that dance to the music, right? And so, do you find yourself doing that? Not necessarily in public, but or when you're in the midst of it, are you feeling a connection to Jesus or God, or for you, it's not quite.
I don't go to a Christian studio, but it's very like family oriented and stuff. So I wouldn't say that it's not like we're doing like dancing to like worship music or stuff like that. But I do try to find God in everything that I do, and I do think God gave me this ability and this passion for a reason, obviously, to like inspire others and like reach other people and spread God's word in that way. I just don't know how yet, I guess. But I do find God in like the rhythms and the music, like just with tap, like you really need to listen to the counts and like the rhythms of everything. So I really feel like I do find God in dance, even though it's not like we are doing a worship dance for a Sunday service. It's like I do find God in like dancing or in the music and stuff. But yeah. I do. Just not like God.
So we can't expect next week there's going to be a big dance to
Catch me up there doing a tap routine while Joe talks.
Oh my gosh.
Joe, are you hearing this? She's gonna do a tap routine for Jesus.
Yes.
Tap for Jesus.
Yeah.
Right, just in the background while you're preaching.
Yeah.
Behind that clear plexiglass, she's gonna be behind it.
It won't be distracting.
It
No,
won't be
not at all.
distracting. Tapping. It should be tapping on carpet, so you can't.
Yeah. I won't really do anything.
So, it just switching gears,
Yeah.
because obviously it's like, oh my gosh, all those 4 things in dance, and it's been like 3 years old. We talk volleyball, but that's not probably the only thing you've ever done.
No. Okay, so when I started being homeschooled, I can't remember like what I did like growing up. I was like in Girl Scouts or something, so it's not really like that physical aspect of it. But besides that, when I started being homeschooled, I was in archery because my dad knew a guy, and so like my sisters and I just tried doing that. I actually really love archery. I was pretty good at it. I still have my bow and arrows, and I picked that up a little bit during quarantine. I'm definitely going to get back into it now that I think of it. But yeah, I really liked that. And then I also danced for a couple years. For the first like maybe 1 or 2 years, I just did acro, which is more like tumbling kind of.
Yeah.
And then the third year I danced, I took ballet, jazz, tap, and acro. And it was fine, but like, again, like I tried something new and I didn't really like feel like a super connection that everyone else that seemed to have like through dancing. But it was another outlet to like meet other people, and that is where I like mainly connected with the Marquarts actually, and started to be friends with them. So like through dance, and then they moved churches and started coming to Second Place, which is where I pursued that relationship more. But as far as physically, yeah, I didn't really like dance that much. So like, again, I stopped dancing, but I started volleyball when we were homeschooled. So I started in 7th grade for a homeschool team, and that's when Annalise and I joined the team together, and we were so bad. Like, it was so awful. I hope no videos are ever up anywhere of those, because that was just not
I think
a
I
fun time to
came.
remember.
I think I came to like a 7th or 8th grade.
It's so bad. No, yeah, our team was really bad. And then after that, so like I stayed in volleyball from 7th until this last year. So I've really enjoyed that. I've met a lot of people. I've played for a few different teams, but yeah, I feel like it's just a sport that I really love. I really feel a lot better than I did like dancing or doing anything like that. I wouldn't say that it hit on like all those topics, but like you kind of just have to make them. Like you have to, if you want something to happen, like you have to kind of force it. So like I would like try to like talk to people on my team, or like our homeschool team was a Christian team, so like that was kind of already established there.
Yeah.
So as far as like the spiritual aspect of that, we always like prayed before games and like did stuff like that. And I like led devotions a few times. So like that was like a way to kind of incorporate God into the sport, and just like how you act on the court when you're playing and when something doesn't go your way, or when you win a game, like just your like sportsmanship towards your teammates and the other team can really reflect how you have God in you. So like that's a way that I kind of tried to make God a part of that. But
you also said quarantine gave you an opportunity to kind of, we'll call it get in shape, but you had a chance to just focus on the physical during the quarantine.
Yeah. We had a group of people. We all rucked in November of 2019, I believe, and then also again last summer. Was it last summer? Yeah, last summer we did another one. So like that was something that like I had started doing more during quarantine as well, because we had already kind of started that in November. So
rucking, for people watching, tell them what that is.
Yeah, so rucking is you're kind of like hiking, I would say, with weight in a backpack, just like however much you feel like you can carry. I like to challenge myself, but like don't push yourself too hard because you don't want to get hurt. But definitely like fast-paced walking with weight on your back, just to like, I don't know, it's not as easy as it sounds.
And you did like 2 days, like 30 miles each.
Yeah, so the first time, I think there was a group of like 10 of us, we did 50 miles in a day.
Oh, wow.
And that was a lot on my body, probably the worst pain I've been in, like physically, like honestly. That really like pushed me to like have to rely on like God to like get me through that.
So you're talking like double marathon.
No, like that was so
carrying
bad.
weight.
Yeah, and like as far as the weight goes, it was mainly our supplies in our bag, so it wasn't like as much as we had been training with, because we would train with like 20 pounds in our back. But so like that walk, none of us were expecting like as bad as it would be, like blisters everywhere after, like every single muscle in your body like so tight. Like I don't even know why Abby Doty decided to like do that. I think she was talking to Jordan after Summit, after Leadership Summit, and that's when she kind of like started that group and got the idea. So they were talking, and then that's kind of how that all started. And so that's something that I really felt like I should continue doing. So like I did that during quarantine a lot, as well as like working out and just like trying to get my physical aspect like higher, grow it a little bit, push myself. And then like I also did archery and would just like play volleyball with my sister in the backyard a lot. But yeah, quarantine definitely, I was just like doing anything I could to not be bored. So I was taking advantage of it.
Yeah, because wasn't the ruck originally planned for May, like beginning of May?
I think so. Something
I
like
think
that.
so. So we were still training, and I was doing the ruck. I didn't do the 50-mile run. I wanted to. I think I had like a commitment the day that it was happening, but then I did the 30-mile one, and so I was training. I was going for like 5 to 8 miles like every day, and I was just like cruising by myself, and like that's when like me and Annalise really connected, rucking together, because we live like a half a mile away from each other. So I'd walk to her house, and then we'd like ruck together during quarantine and try to stay like far apart. And I'd be like, okay, bye, like fun 3 or 4 miles and just talk about stuff. It was really fun, but yeah, I feel like quarantine just allowed me time to really work on like my the physical tank. Yeah.
The dual purpose though of the ruck is you raise money.
Yeah.
Do you remember what that was for?
Yeah. So we started fundraising and kind of like raising money, getting the word out through an Instagram that Abby had started, and we were raising money to go towards Provision Lab to like kind of like further their organization and like get people out of human trafficking, and then they like, I don't really know like all of what Provision Lab does, but I know that like we were just trying to raise money as much as we could, like from the time of August, I believe, is when Summit was, when we made the decision to do it, to November. So then like from that time we were just kind of posting on Facebook, posting on Instagram, letting people know that we were going to do this, and we had like a goal. So we ended up reaching it. I think we raised $5,000, maybe a little bit more, give or take. That might have been for the second one, but I don't really remember. But yeah, we ended up reaching our goal, and so that was really nice. But it was interesting to see like how quickly we could do that by like just getting the word out. And I don't know, it was kind of weird because like all of us were just like, okay, we're just gonna like we're just gonna like walk 50 miles in a day and just like let everyone know, like, by the way, we kind of need money, so like, because like that's why we're doing it, like we want to like help people materially, but like we also like wanted to reflect how we, okay, so like I don't know if this is something that like everyone thinks when they like rock, but something that I think is like a symbol of like carrying the weight that they have like on their back, like that's why I kind of did it, and what I took away from it was like, I'm carrying this weight for you, like I'm doing what I can, and like I've never been in your place, but I'm gonna like try my best to like understand and like feel the pain physically that you feel like in all aspects of your life. So like that's kind of like where I got the like symbolism out of that, and like what I believe like rucking was for me personally. Like other people obviously have different goals, but that's what I got out of it mainly.
Yeah, that was one of my goals as well. It's like I can do these 30 miles and I can experience the like pain or soreness after the couple days, because these people who are in sex trafficking are experiencing pain for years, and even when they're rescued out of it, they'll still have that emotional and like mental aspect of it. So I'm like, towards the end I was like asking God, I'm like, please just like help me get through this, because like it was painful, but it was worth it. Also like the heat was just a lot, but I'm like, just help me get through this, because I want to raise awareness for this.
Like your pain is so much less than what
it's so much less than what they're experiencing, especially because it was only like a couple days after, like, oh, my calves are sore, oh, I have a couple blisters here and there, and it was like, no, like it's worth it. And I actually had my dance recital later that day, so I rucked 30 miles, and then I had my performance. So like putting on my tap shoes, I was like, this may take a couple minutes, and but it was worth it. Like I didn't care. Like everyone was like, oh, are you okay? I'm like, no, like it was worth it. Like what I just did, because like, I want to raise awareness for that, the pain that those people are going through. So my pain just that one day and a couple days after was completely worth it.
This is awesome perspective. When people think you're too young to understand things, or too young to have vision, or too young to be bold, like this is a great podcast for that, for people to hear this from you guys. So I appreciate that. There's so much good. This should be like a triple episode. So let's try to get through. We'll see how much time we got. Emotional is next. So what I put under emotional is social media. Okay, so I don't know. Does anybody want to start this conversation, or should I just start the conversation?
I mean, I don't really have like a ton to say about it. Maybe I will if like you say something else, but I don't really know.
Do you spend a lot of time on social media?
Like, I wouldn't like to admit it, but yeah, I would say so like I've taken breaks before from social media just because like I have really bad FOMO, so like seeing other people like post like their lives, or like if like say I'm busy that day, like I have work or something, and then like my friends go and hang out and they're like posting about it, like it kind of like makes me like feel like I'm just like in a hole of self-pity, because I'm just like, oh, I should be there, like all my friends are hanging out, like, so that's something that like I struggle with, like as far as like seeing my other friends hang out, and through social media, like I'm just watching them do that, and I'm like, it's probably not the best for me, but I've learned to kind of like get past that. But I definitely spend more time on social media than I'd like to admit, but it can be good, like, 'cause sometimes I will like read stories on like Instagram, or like I'll like read through like people's testimonies, or like there's other things that I do like on social media besides just like scrolling through my feed or whatever it is. But yeah, I definitely could limit my time on it more than I do, but there's like good and bad aspects of social media. I don't really know.
You just want to ditto all that, or no?
Well, I deleted social media at the beginning of the year. I kept TikTok, and then I deleted that, I think, late February, early March, and I haven't gotten it back since. Like, I personally don't miss it, because, like, I struggle, like, I spend so much time on it, and then, like, I feel like I'm just rotting away, and I'm like, oh, I could be cleaning, I could be reading a book or something. And so, like, I'm a very extreme person, I feel like, so I'm like, oh, just delete it all. But it's like, I don't really miss it personally, and like it's helped me really just like focus on like being in the moment, and not always like, if there's a lull in a conversation with a friend, like I'm not just gonna go on my phone and like Snapchat people back or something, or just like scroll on Instagram for a couple minutes. Like I did download Instagram again, and then I just deleted it like yesterday or 2 days ago. So I'm like, it's boring to me. I'm like, I don't know. That may seem extreme. Like people are just like, just don't go on it. But it's like, I'm just like, delete. I don't know. I just personally, I don't know. It's not like a huge part of my life.
So do you think, but is it a huge part? Do you think it's a huge problem for most kids your age?
Yeah, probably.
Do you know many people that are always on it and are always posting, or they're on it and they're bothered by stuff they're watching, and you're like, why are you even bothered watching it? Looking at it?
I would say like, like if you're gonna like.
This is the hard hitting part of the
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
This
It's
is
like
what I was
if
reading.
it's like if you're gonna be on it and it's not gonna make you feel good, or like you're not gonna feel productive, you're just gonna feel lazy, like scrolling. Like, why do it? So like when I get in those moods, like I try my best. Like if I'm on social media, I'll just do it at the very end of the day, or like if I'm not busy doing anything and I know I don't have much else to do. So like, cause I'm a very task oriented person, so like I want to get things done. I always have like a list that I need to do for the day, for the week, whatever it is. I have goals that I want to reach. So it's like I reward myself like through social media. So it's like I can go scroll on TikTok if I get this project done, or like do whatever it is. But now that I'm graduated, I'm kind of scared because I don't have those tasks to do. So it's like I have to like make myself do other things so that I don't always so that I don't always go on social media as like my first response. Like because I have a goal to read 50 books this year. So like that's something that I am like gonna try to work to do. Like instead of going on social media, I'll go sit down and read a book or do whatever else that like I feel like I could be more productive in than just scrolling.
Are you on pace for your 50?
I'm on my 9th or 10th book right now, so like I'm kind of falling behind, but I'm reading like some really chunky books. So I'm like trying to I think I'm gonna just like read like the Chronicles of Narnia or something to like get my count up, because it's like they're like a small series, so I'll just like do that. But I think it'll be easier during summer and stuff, and like once because I'm also taking like a gap year, so once it comes to fall and stuff, I'm not gonna be doing much else besides like working and going to church and stuff like that. So I think I'll reach it if I just push myself to, because like in my head I'm like, you have to do it now because like you already made the goal. So like that's a big part of my personality, is like I need to just do it. Like I can't start something and not finish
So you
it.
need to, at this point, after we shut off, like how many you got left, divide by how many months you got, and then your goal is to hit those. You know, the best case scenario is to hit that many per month. And then if you could somehow push an extra book earlier, then there's less time. I do like how you say you reward. It's like, let me get this done. Task oriented. Like, here's what I got to get done. When I do this, I've even last year when I got into the whole book reading, it was like, how many books can I read? And sure enough, I'm like, I picked 2 on Amazon. I'm like, 400 pages, 200 pages, 200 pages. Like, I don't even like the topic wasn't as important. Like, I really want to read this one. Oh, but it's too long. So for now, this year it's changed a little bit, but I got away from it a little bit, and I go, okay, before I turn on the TV, I'm going to make sure I read 2 chapters, task oriented. Like, here's what let me accomplish something, and then sure enough, go ahead. Now, again, don't spend as much time on that though that you just spent reading. Right? Try to have a percentages. And at the end of the day, when it's not edifying, I mean, you might as well just click it off. There's some good videos. So my kids always send TikTok. And some of them are funny or entertaining or just uplifting. I sent Kaylee one this morning. I'm just like, it's the cutest little baby thing. But so there are those types of things. But how much of the world is just like, is scrolling their life away and not accomplishing and not being bold and not taking chances on things, and not going to Florida to explore, or hoping to go to France because they're just sitting here doing this. I think they say anxiety is up in your generation because of social media. I think my point to that, or what I thought about in service today, was you're not accomplishing things. You're not getting your tasks done. So at the end of the day, that to-do list is still your to-do list. And now you're a day behind because you're going to got tomorrow's to-do list to do today. And many people have trouble being task-oriented or just deleting it. And so that's tough. And so that's kind of why what I try to preach or teach or show or talk to kids nowadays. It's like, here's the reasons why. Like, because where do you want to be in 4 years? You're right. You want to be established in Florida. You want to be in France. Like, you know how much you've got to be working every day. And it's okay to take a day off, or you need to have those breaks, right? Like God took 6 days to build, then he took a day off. Like so if God has to take a day off, like we're allowed days off, or just the days that we want to mentally zone out. But I like that you both, it's not a conversation with you because you both have it under control. Or at least you've come to some sort of like understanding.
I realize that I need to,
realization.
Like I'm task oriented as well, and so I'm like, I have things to get done, and I like making like plans for myself, and I always want to be improving myself, and I don't find myself doing that on social media. Like I'm just wasting away the hours and stuff, and so I'd rather, instead of spending time on my phone, I'd rather just go read a book because that's like relaxing to me. So yesterday I had some stuff to get done, like I had to mow the lawn, and that takes a while because my yard is pretty big. So I was like, oh, beforehand I'm gonna read my book or something instead of just scrolling on social media. And then later I took a break and I'm like, oh, I'll read a chapter or 2 here. And so I'm very task oriented as well, and I like finding other things than just sitting on my phone because, like I said, I want to always be improving myself. And of course, like you said, like breaks are important, rest is important. Like I will do that, but I'm trying to find new ways to rest instead of being on my phone because it's just like throwing all this information and like you need this, all this stuff at you, and so it's a lot. It's mentally draining being on social media all the time.
That's good. Let's roll that because what's important is your friendship with each other, and you've mentioned that at least a few times, and that when you're like-minded people, it's a little bit easier, and you feel like you're supported in the decisions to do those things. And as we roll into spiritual, you both just started. You kind of had a thought, and you reached out to Kennadie, right, about the Truth Project?
Yes. So so I've always been a Christian. I've always like had a relationship with God, but back in like I think like 6, 7, 8 months ago, like something just like clicked in my brain, and I was like, what am I doing? I'm like, God is like this such an important person, and I'm not making him an important like person and like thing in my life. And so I just like something just like clicked in my brain, and I just started like pursuing God more and stuff. And I'm like, I was just like learning all of these things that I never even thought of, just like reading my Bible, because like I always struggled. I'm like, oh, I don't know where to start, like with reading my Bible, and everyone's like, just pick it up and just start reading. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. And so one day I just like picked it up, and I'm like, oh, I'll read Proverbs. And so I did that, and it was like so many things that I had questions of that I thought I would never have the answer to were like answering. And I was like, God was like helping me out, and he was teaching me new things because I just desired that knowledge and that wisdom that I didn't know where to get it from. And I got it from God's word. And Joe kind of touched on that today, just talking about like you can find comfort and knowledge like in God's word. And I really found that. And so I wanted to share all that I was learning with people because I'm like, this is like such a big God thing. And so I think I randomly just thought to like text Kennadie, and I was like me and her have always been friends, like, but like we weren't like as close, like I say the past like year or two, I guess. But like when I first came to second place, like we were like very close, like talking all the time. And then I just texted her, and I was like, I don't really know why I'm saying this. I wish I remembered what I said, but I was just like, was sharing something I was learning. And then she was like, that's like so cool. And then she shared what she thought. And so then like every single day we were like telling each other like a new thing that God was revealing to us, or just like touching on what we talked about before. And like it was so wonderful because like I was establishing my own little community. Like I already had second place, and like I feel like I'm so blessed to be able to talk about God with my friends and my community and my family. But like just like sharing with Kennadie like what God was revealing to me was so powerful. And I knew it was a God thing because like we have very like similar views on things, and even if we like disagree on something, we're like, okay, let's share that, let's talk about it, like why do you think this, or why do you think that? So it's so wonderful, and I'm so glad that I shared that with you. And then I think in what was it, like February or March, like we were just talking, and then you were like, what if we started like a Bible study group or something? Because like we were sharing with each other, but we wanted to share with other people because we're like, this is such a big thing, it's beyond us. So we want to like reach other people and stuff. And she was like, let's start a Bible study group. And I was like, that is a good idea. And so we were like, well, where do we even begin? And so we met with Joe, and he was helping us out a lot. And then he was like, well, have you thought about the Truth Project, which is a video series like 12 weeks long. And it's for like juniors and seniors because it's very like heavy material. It's like you need to have like some kind of understanding of God really established like before you like take on these like big ideas that the guy is presenting to you. So we started that in April.
4 weeks ago.
Yes, 4 weeks ago. And we meet Friday nights at 7 at my house.
Mhm.
Yep, so I'm so glad that we started that together because we didn't know where to begin with a Bible study. We were like,
Yeah.
do we just like pick a chapter of the
Yeah.
Bible, meet up with people, and then talk about it? But since neither of us ever led anything like that before, we needed some kind of structure. And so I'm so glad that like we reached out to Joe and Jeremiah and Annalise, and they like helped us figure out with the Truth Project. And I'm really glad that we're doing that.
Annalise is part of it.
Yes, she attends and stuff, but like it's so glad it's like 6 or 7 people every week. It kind of changes.
Yeah. It's been really interesting because like I don't talk to some people like that come to our group very often, and like hearing their views on like a lot deeper things, I'm just like, that's really interesting. Like I never thought about it that way. And it's definitely a challenge for myself because like I have very strong opinions. So like if I have an opinion on something, like I want to share it, but I feel like something that God's been really teaching me like through this experience is like being like kind of like a leader for this kind of thing. You have to have a lot of a more different perspective like when you're going into that, because like I said, like I have strong opinions, so like I want to share what I think, but sometimes it's better and best for like the whole group for you to just stay quiet and listen to everyone else. Which is why like us talking is good because we both share similar opinions on things. So it's like if people in our group don't agree with what we agree with, we don't have to really share it with our group unless it'll like benefit the group. But if not, we can just talk together like on side so that it's not like conflicting anyone in the group, because we're just there to like all grow, and we're all like on the same journey. We're all trying to get to know God deeper and like on a more spiritual level. So it's like we're just growing all alongside each other, and we don't ever like want other people to feel like we're better just because like we started this thing. So it's like we're the best, whatever. Like, because I don't know. Pride is definitely something like I struggle with, but through this experience, I've been really humbled to like just stay quiet and listen to what other people have to say. Something my grandpa always tells me is like you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Like you're supposed to listen twice as much as you speak. So like I always keep that in mind. And like through this experience, like I would say I really try to like keep to myself more and like listen to what other people have to say. And just knowing like there's a time and place for what my opinions are, and like if I feel God is telling me to speak on a certain thing, I will. But otherwise, I try my best to just listen to what other people have to say and keep the peace in the group.
Yeah, because when we were starting this, like we really just wanted everyone. We didn't want it to be like too big, where like everyone was just like throwing their opinions out, and like if someone had something to say, like they couldn't say it. Like we want everyone to feel like they're heard and that they can share their opinions, and that no one will like completely tear them down. Because if you have a question, you should share it, because like other people may have had that question before and then they found answers, or they could be like, hey, like I'm struggling with that too, or wow, I never even thought about that. So we just really wanted people to learn more about God, because it's so important, especially to establish when you're like around our age pretty much. And we just wanted everyone to be genuine. Like we didn't want to like, oh, just don't come like just because your friends are coming. Like we want you to come because you have that desire in you and you want to fulfill that with God.
Wow. It's just very like, I don't know if you are like, if you realize how like wise, like how smart both of you are, or how like to hear how open you are to hear. You've said it multiple times during this interview, specifically like I'm open to whatever God wants me to do. Like that, you've actually used those words. Not to say you haven't. What you said that was huge was I'm learning to listen, because in today's society, when Twitter was invented like 10 years ago, because MySpace was something, and then Facebook was something, and then Instagram was pictures. And then when Twitter came out, it was, I'm going to give you 144 characters, I think, to say what you want. It was like half as many as you get now. But, but like, I'm just going to say what I think, and that's it. Like, that's what Twitter was. It's just tweeting, saying what I think, and that's it. And I thought, this is going to be trouble. Like, I honestly thought it. Like, when I first heard it, I thought, this isn't good. It's not good, because, by the way, are you a Twitter person?
No, not really.
No.
So Twitter is not a good place, because all you do is, it's one way, really. Now you can obviously rebut underneath, but nobody's going through that.
Yeah.
The person that's saying what they want is just a one-way street.
Mhm.
And there's not an opportunity to really listen.
Mm-hmm.
So for you to say we want a small group, I could say things, grow in God, but like I'm learning to listen.
Yeah.
And you're a very opinionated person, you
Mhm.
said. But like to be able to like bite your tongue and be like, let me just hear what this person has to say. And
Yeah.
there's probably things that you're like, oh wow. Like you said, I've never thought of it that way. So there's something huge in that entire just the fact that it's Truth Project, but like how fast you've grown in your 4 weeks, if that's where it started. It's like being open to that, I think it's pretty powerful. So that's really good. You might have to come on, like you'll be our first guest, like back as a second. Maybe like when you visit back from Florida or France. Like,
Yeah, for
see,
sure.
catch up in like 4 years.
Yeah.
Where are they now?
Yeah.
So let's go through these quotes. We don't have as much time, but I think we got way more than what we bargained for maybe. And make sure if you're seeing this that you share this with friends and don't be like dismiss this because they're young and be like, oh, he's just speaking to the youth. Like this is huge for everybody to hear this one. All right, so this is the quotes. They're probably not in the order that you heard them, but if you remember anything about them, every day do something that makes you uncomfortable. You already spoke to that kind of. But.
Yeah, I like challenging myself in small ways. Like, I guess you could say like challenging myself with things that I'm like quote like comfortable with. Like I like challenging myself with dance, like pushing myself and like getting stronger, becoming more flexible or something. Or with God, like asking the tough questions that oftentimes people may be scared to ask because like it's scary. Like God, he's a big concept to try to understand. But yeah, I like challenging myself.
I would just say like pretty briefly, like challenging yourself every day, like is so important because at least what I see in myself is like I'm not gonna go and try to be bold and do something that like is out of my comfort zone completely if I just don't think I can do it. So it's like you kind of just have to force yourself to, otherwise you're never gonna get there. And like sacrifice is a big thing for that too. Like being uncomfortable is a sacrifice. Like you have to like leave your comfort zone in order for God to move in ways that you could never imagine for him to. Like doing something uncomfortable does not always have to mean like you're moving and doing something. It just means like you're pushing yourself to go farther and you're pushing yourself to do something that you aren't necessarily like always used to doing, and like God will work and move in that. And like moving to Florida is not exactly like easy for me. Like I'm like leaving everything I know, but I feel like in order for God to move in the ways that I know that he can and like that I trust he can, I need to take the first step and he'll meet me like wherever I need. And like he knows my desires, so it's like he will give me what I need and he'll give me all the tools and build me up to do what I need to do. So
knock and the door will be opened. I don't know where that is in scripture, but I say it all the time. It's like it's not sit there and the door will be open. It's like you have to put in some kind of effort and God will meet you where you are at, like no matter where it is. But like it's such a big leap of faith, like what you are doing or like anything really. Like sometimes I do something and I'm like, I have no idea why God is asking me to do this or why I feel this need, this pull to do this thing, but I do it anyway. And then I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So it's doing something uncomfortable is a big leap of faith.
Are you listening to them?
I am, yes.
Do they sound like me?
Maybe better. I'm fine.
I'll allow it. I mean, anyways. When you come to a point that you have to make a key decision, think about how that choice will make you feel tomorrow. That's a big thing that keeps me moving on social media. Like, how's this going to make me feel tomorrow? And it's like, shut it off. Yeah. That's kind of how it gets me going.
I don't really have much to say about that one. I don't know if you do, but
yeah, I mean, I'm a very futuristic person. Like, I like thinking about what I'm doing now, like how that will affect me when I'm older. So I think that's part of the reason why I started just putting in more effort with God and putting in just that time with my relationship with Jesus and stuff, because it's like I accepted God when I was a child and I accepted what Jesus did for me, and like that was my invitation. Like when I did that, like eternity started for me. Like I am forever with Jesus if I continue to like pursue that relationship and accept like the offering, the sacrifice that he died for me on the cross. So I think that's part of it. It's like what I'm doing today, I want that to be a positive influence on my life and other people's lives around me, of course. So yeah, I like to think of what I'm doing now or ideas that I have, like how will that affect me when I'm older? How will that affect me tomorrow?
Last week, all the quotes kind of rolled with the missionaries, like, but yours are for you as well. If you marry your dreams with drive, urgency, passion, and a burning desire to finish what you start, you could do anything.
Mm-hmm.
That just reminds me of like all your big dreams that you guys have. Appreciate what you have. We haven't talked about that at all.
Yeah, I'd say like as far as that goes, like you can go many different ways with that one, but you can't be thankful for anything in your life if you don't like think about it. And like for me, I always try to like, if something does not go my way or something is not like exactly like the way that I planned, like say like, so I'm bringing this back up, but I had food poisoning on Friday, and I'm like, okay, I could like sit here and be like upset about this, and like yeah, I was, because I'm like, well, I'm super sick right now. It's like I'm not like excited about that, but I'm like laying in the hospital bed and I'm just like sitting there and I'm like thinking of all the things that like I am grateful for. Like I am not extremely sick right now. Like I've had my health up to this point. Like you have to like be thankful for the things that you currently have and for what God's already given to you and like what you already have in your life. Otherwise you're just gonna go and like be in self-pity all the time and you're like, well, these are all the things I don't have, but that's not what we're supposed to do. Like we're given all these things and like our life itself is a gift, so it's like use it to the best that you can. Otherwise like if you're not thankful for the simplest things, like how can you do anything in life is how I view it. I don't know.
Last year, the beginning of 2020, I had a theme word. It was peace for that entire year, and it really helped me last year. Like I learned so much because like naturally like I'm a very anxious person, and that taught me so many things, like more to like rely on God, like He's the Prince of Peace and stuff. So and then this year my word was Thanksgiving, because I realized like I'm not very good at like being thankful for what I have in the moment, and I feel like a lot of people around me have taught me to be thankful for what I have, and it's been very helpful. It's helped me with my relationship with God, of course, and also just being more like confident in myself, because like I'm thankful for the gifts that God has given me, when I used to be like, oh, I don't want to like become like cocky or anything, because I'm just gonna be like, oh, look at me, look at all these things like He did for me. But it's like it's just completely different. I feel like being thankful I'm like humble, but I'm also like pretty confident. It's weird, but Thanksgiving is a big word for me this year.
That's good. The last two I'll say together. You have to quit something to get something. That was actually a Joe DiCenzo quote from the November 2019. That kind of kicked off my journey. And then by thought, the thing you want is brought to you. By action, you receive it, which I think you've kind of spoken to, both of you, today a little bit. Anything on those two? Did you remember that quote from Joe? You got to quit something to get something.
I feel like our church has been talking a lot about sacrifice lately, and just to follow God, you are going to have to sacrifice some things, and I think that's a pretty big deal, because like I just brought up like being humble, but like to be humble, you have to identify the things that you aren't very good at, but then you also get to identify the things you are good at, and then you accept what God did for you. Like He gives me the strength that I need, and He helps me so much, and like I don't know, it's just insane.
Yeah, I would say something that Joe I think touched on. It might not have been Joe, I don't really know, but he was saying like it might have been a youth group actually, but sacrifice like means like you're giving up something that you like for something that you love, or like something that you need to pursue further. And like sacrifice obviously isn't supposed to be easy, so it's like you're going out of your comfort zone, like kind of to give up something that you're comfortable with, and like give up something that you know completely for something, and like just handing it to God and being like, okay, here's my life, I guess, like just do what you want with it. And like that kind of goes along with the second quote, like just the fact that to actually get the dreams and like to pursue what you want to do with your life, you're gonna have to make some choices, and like they're not always gonna be easy. And like something my mom always says is like life's not fair, and so like I always just like rolling my eyes at her like when she says that. But
You say that a lot too, don't you?
Yeah, David.
Oh
and I
yeah, I was just gonna
had
say. I
tattoos.
think you and
So-
David got matching tattoos.
So because of that,
Yeah.
and I didn't even know your mom at the time, but
Yeah.
it's something
Yeah.
important. And what were you going to say? For that?
Just like realizing that like not everything is gonna go the same way for everyone. So like I might have to give up different sacrifices, and like someone else's life might look like they are completely in order, and like they're not having to give up anything for God to work in their life, or like they're not having to do anything hard that I'm having to do. Like I compare myself a lot in like my life, so like am I like excited to move and like take a gap year and not go to school? Like I am, but I'm also not, because like I love learning, I love going to school, so like this is a big thing for me to take a gap year and to just like establish myself in a different way. So like in that aspect, I'm like, well, I'm giving that up so that I can allow God to use me in whatever way that He wants for that whole year up until I'm going to school. And so like for myself, that is like you have to pursue that, and you have to make the first move in order for God to take the rest of it and like run with it. Like you have to make a choice to do what you want to do. You can't just sit there and think and wait for everything to be perfect, because it's never going to happen. Like I'm very much a perfectionist, so like I won't do something unless I can like do it to the best of my ability and like give it all my energy and all my time. But I realize that about myself, so like it's kind of a struggle, but it's also like, since I know that I am that way, I have to push myself to just start somewhere. And it's like, even though I can't do this like completely, and I'm gonna make mistakes, I'm not gonna do this perfectly, I have to start somewhere, or I'm not gonna do anything with my life. I'm just gonna sit here and wait for the perfect time, and like that's never the case, because like the perfect time is when you make it. Like you have to start somewhere, otherwise it's not gonna go anywhere.
Again, boldness.
Yeah.
I feel like that's been a big thing. I'm also a big perfectionist, and so I just sit by and like let things go, because I'm like, oh, I can't put in 110% with that, and it's just it's a lot, like dealing with that, like always having to be like really good at everything that I do, and it's prohibited me from like not doing something or not taking opportunities that I should have, because I realized lately that God gives you the strength. Like if He wants you to do something and asks you to do it, He will give you the strength that you need. Like I rely on God a lot more because of that, and like I know that like I don't just carry myself through life, but I can also rely on Kennadie. I can also rely on my friends to help me get through things. And like you brought up comparison, and I was thinking about that during social media. Like if you're just scrolling, like these people, they pick the picture that looks the best, and then they write a cute little caption to go with it. And like comparison is such a big deal. Like I often compare my life to other people's lives. I'm like, oh, well, theirs just looks so much better, or they're more equipped than I have. They have the talents that like I would want. But like realizing, like I said earlier, like I realize the gifts that God has given me, and that's not cocky. Like I can acknowledge the things that I know that I'm good at, but I also know things that I'm really not good at, and that's where community comes in. Like Kennadie is good at things that I am not, so we can complement each other, and like there's a balance that happens. So I guess just being bold and realizing that if God wants me to do something, then He's going to give me what I need to do it.
Like use what you already have. Like
yeah. Like I want to do missions work. I can't just wait to go do it wherever God wants me to do, or like say I just move states, say I move an hour away. Like why not start right now? Which is another reason why like we started the Bible study group, Truth Project. It's like if I can't reach out into my community and like serve God and help other people like grow a relationship with God here in my community, the people that I know now, how am I going to do that with strangers? Establishing a relationship with people, like how am I going to do that if in a completely different country and like another language if I have to learn one?
Yeah.
All right, so it's insane how much wisdom you two have. I don't know if like Jonathan knows I wouldn't say that just to say it. Like I don't know if you know how much wisdom you have. Maybe you're just growing. Maybe you're at a perfect time right now to talk to you. Maybe like a year or two ago you wouldn't have felt like you had this. But like what you're saying and like the understanding that you have. First of all, you've been blessed to have parents that care about you so much and have invested so much time in you, and that church that you have, and have the leadership that you have that have instilled with you, and the community that you and the people that you get to be around. And again, over that time, none of those things are ever perfect because they're not Christ.
Yeah.
They are not God. And you probably, at some point, they have let you down at some point.
Mhm.
But the fact that at your age you're open to learn from all of them, because you've referenced all of those at some point
Mhm.
during today's conversation, whether it be your parents or Joe or someone else or the
Mhm.
church or a friend. Like you reference all those things, which means that you're like open to hearing from them. And then you said, when we started Bible study, just so we can hear from other people
Mhm.
and listen to them. So like that is all huge, what the world kind of needs. So you've restored my hope in that generation. If for just the two of you, if more people could be that open, I'd
Mhm.
appreciate it, and we'd be a better place. I'm going to close with the tagline. Do you know the tagline?
No.
One life, just one. Why are we not running like we are on fire towards our wildest dreams? Jim Quick. This has been Miriam, Joy, and Kennedy, Nicole, Jonathan, Andrew, David, Joshua. Have a good one.